You're listening to an AINC original podcast. We believe you don't have to do life without a compass. Let us be your guide on this amazing journey. Welcome to Navigating Life with Vision Loss.
Hello, welcome to Navigating Life with Vision Loss. We're exploring resources, lived experiences, insights that will help you to navigate life as you're losing vision or have lost vision. I'm your host, Kim Wardlow. We are wrapping up this month. We've been looking at the topic of adapting to vision loss. So someone who's just newly losing some vision and adapting to that. And I'm excited today. We have somebody I've known for a long time. Again, Denny Moyer. She is the CEO of the Insight Skills Center and the Curtis Strong Center. After the onset of vision loss at age 19 due to Stargardt's macular degeneration, Denny earned degrees in occupational therapy and healthcare administration and has practiced in low vision rehabilitation since 1999. She served on many boards and committees, including the Aging and Vision Loss National Commission, the American Occupational Therapy Association, the National Accreditation Council Serving Blindness and Low Vision, and the Blind Technical Assistance Committee. So she's really established herself even nationally as a recognized professional in the field of low vision. So welcome, Denny.
My goodness.
Thanks for joining us today. Here, I just thought of you as the person I used to, have a table next to.
I know. Same here.
How impressive you are.
I don't know about that. It's, there's so few of us that you have to get involved, right?
Right.
Yeah. It's good to be here with you, Kim Ann. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Oh, you're welcome. Well, let's just dive in. What are initial steps that you would advise someone take when they're newly diagnosed with a condition that's going to result in vision loss?
Generally, when somebody's, just diagnosed, the doctor will make some sort of a referral. It doesn't happen all the time, and people don't always hear it because they're getting past that horrifying diagnosis, right? That they're going to be experiencing vision loss. But oftentimes the doctor will make a recommendation. And there's a couple of things that I think people should do when they're initially diagnosed. And one is, if they have made a recommendation to some sort of a rehab, they should make contact with them. Even if they're not ready to go in, they should make contact. And if they do decide to take that initial appointment, for instance, at Insight or Curtis Strong, or one of our other locations, they're going to get so much education about what's actually going to happen. And I think that, especially in those beginning stages, you can really give somebody hope by just giving them really good education about the process of the disease, what kinds of resources are available, and even introducing them to other people who are visually impaired. And I think that's something that's really important, is if you know, and most people do, know somebody else who has macular degeneration or glaucoma or, diabetic retinopathy, to make contact with that person and to see what they're doing as far as coping goes. But just, knowing other people. We always recommend support groups. I know a lot of people say I'm not a support group person, but it's a great place. You don't have to participate. Go and listen. You're going to learn so much from what other people say. They share struggles. They give tips on the kinds of techniques they're using. They talk about devices. They talk about community resources. And it's a great way to get started. So,
yeah, because sometimes people have gone to their optometrists, ophthalmologists, because they are having trouble with their vision and they're being told that it's not correctable. It's a condition that can't be corrected, but sometimes it's a really early diagnosis. And so it can be easy to think, well, I'm fine right now, and just put that off. But starting early is really important, just to help yourself prepare. And like you said, it just helps you mentally and emotionally to have hope and not get, bogged down in the fear or negative thought.
Exactly. When we see somebody early in their diagnosis, even if we really can't help them at that point, because, we're rehab, we're here to help. Part of that is the education. And even if they don't need any tools, they don't need us to come into the home, just letting them know that it is a progressive disease. And when you start noticing changes, come back to us. There are so many things that can be done. And the earlier they start using some of those tools and techniques, the easier the progression is going to be for them. They're going to be able to cope much better just by starting early. As you know, with magnification, if you just need a little bit of magnification, you get this nice big lens, and things seem simple, but the longer you go, the worse your vision gets, the smaller those magnifiers get, and they're really much more difficult to use like that. But if you've been using one for a long time already, then you can adapt. And that's what this is all about anyway. It's adaptation. People can remain independent, they can keep working, they can get around their community. They just have to be willing to adapt.
Right. And sometimes it's continuing to adapt, as you alluded to. It's not just a one and done. If you have a condition that's progressive, you may have to continue to adapt, but that's easier to do in small steps oftentimes than all of a sudden. And sometimes you don't have a choice. It's an all of a sudden thing.
Right.
But
that's true.
If you do, that's a good thing. What are some of the other resources? I know you mentioned support groups, other resources that you recommend to folks, or you let them know are available when they're at a point that they need them.
Well, there, again, as you know, there are a lot of community resources that people can reach out and get some help. Even before they start coming to rehab. For instance, AfterSight, Colorado Talking Book Library. I use them every single day. I have Bard downloaded, and I'm constantly got an earbud in listening to books. And it helps me to sleep at night too. I put it in, I set it for an hour, and before you know it, I'm done. But there are, community resources like the area agencies on aging are there to introduce you. You call them and you tell them what's going on, and they will introduce you to the community resources. Transportation. There are a number of ways that people can get around even when they lose their license, because I know that is so connected to independence for people. But if that goes away, then you don't want to just sit at home and do nothing. And so there's a lot of community resources for different kinds of transportation. They're not perfect. Nothing is. But they certainly will help you to get to the places that you need to get to. Support groups, absolutely. There's a lot of support groups in Colorado that are being offered to help people at all different stages of coping, even if it's just going to one that is for loss, not just vision loss, but loss. And, we recommend people, and we can connect people. We do that as well as some of the other agencies. Connect you to somebody else that you can share what's going on in your life, and they can, kind of a peer support. That's, part of it. But I think the biggest part is that you really do need to reach out to the professionals and let us, give you the information, provide you with some comfort and support for whatever your needs are at any stage in your vision loss. from beginning to, we work with everybody from the very beginning, and even people who are totally blind. And most of the people that are visually impaired, statistics tell us that most of them don't completely lose vision, right? They're almost all progressive, but very few of them lead to total vision loss. And so there's just so much that can be done, but you don't know that until you talk to somebody. So if you see a flyer, or if your doctor makes a recommendation, follow through on those things.
Yeah. And orientation and mobility. I know you have professionals that do that training as well. So important, just so you feel like it's not just the transportation. How do I get to a place a mile or 2 or 10 away? But how do I safely walk around my neighborhood? Yep. Or,
that's true.
Even your home, and so just that basic orientation and mobility as well.
Absolutely. And along with that, in the home, for safety purposes, making sure that people are organized in their home, and that their furniture isn't in places where they're going to be tripping over it. Most of us, if you've lived in your home long enough, you know where things are, but you get up in the middle of the night, you can be disoriented, and we don't go in and move people's furniture, but we certainly can make recommendations, and in helping people to be oriented in their home, and to have safe mobility. So in and out, as you said.
Right. And I think a lot of that can come down to just practical tips and coping strategies, just that daily living, like tips that you can give a person inside their home. And some things maybe using technology, and some things don't really require, high tech.
Right.
So I think that's important too. People think, I'm going to have all this adaptive equipment, and adaptive equipment can be really helpful. But I know when you go into a home, there's tips that you provide that are also kind of low tech as well.
Absolutely. If somebody wants to continue cooking and they're struggling to be able to read their cookbooks, or, there are all kinds of things that we can help people do so that they can continue to do the things that they like. They may not want to continue cooking,
They may have found the perfect reason not to have to cook
exactly.
anymore.
It's like sewing. But most people do want to continue to, continue with their activities of daily living. And so, we're here to show them the ways that they can do it, both low tech and high tech. Most people don't want talking microwaves and things like that, but a talking timer,
right,
or a talking clock could really make a difference to somebody. Mm-hmm. And there are a lot of ways, and you talk about high tech stuff and, computer softwares that are available, but also things just like, apps on your phone. How many there are now that really make a difference. And so we're happy to show people those on their phones, on their tablets, on the computers, all of those kinds of things to help them, just be able to communicate with the world and be able to still participate in their own lives and be, as independent as they can be.
Right. And not be isolated.
Right.
It's so important. Kind of on the flip side, maybe you're not the person who has or is losing vision, but you're a friend or a family member. How can people best support a friend or family member who is losing vision? And do those folks get incorporated at all into kind of the training or
absolutely
or the program that the individuals?
Yeah. It's really important to have, caregivers, friends, family, whomever you want to be there. We always ask when somebody comes in for our appointments to bring somebody along with them that will sit in on the appointment. Mm-hmm. So a spouse, a child, a sibling, a friend, whoever they spend the most amount of time with, that's going to be supporting them in this. And our appointments are an hour and a half long. So one-on-one with the doctor and the OT, occupational therapist in the office. And it's tons of education. It's the beginning of training. And it's the beginning for a lot of people of understanding what's actually going on with their vision and why sometimes they can see a little bit better and why sometimes they can't. And so through our evaluation, which are all functional evaluations, they're really learning, both the family member or caregiver and the patient who comes in. And so it's important for the family and or whomever to be supportive and to encourage that person to make the appointment, to come to the appointment, and to learn those strategies, to be there with them to help, remind them. Because again, it's a lot of information. But we do follow up with home visits, so they're not just left on their own once they're done here, because they really need to be successful in their own homes or workplace or school, not necessarily in an office where everything is set up perfectly. But that's the environment where we can begin to show them that you can still read, you can still, cook, you can still, in some cases they can still drive. It depends on their vision loss and where they're at in that progress. But, we want to make sure that they're aware of all those things, and having somebody there. 4 ears are way better than 2. And somebody's usually, we see it often, they're scribbling notes. But we also hand out a packet of resources during those visits, which includes, again, applications to AfterSight and Colorado Talking Book Library and some of the transportations that are out there. And we help them fill them out. And submit them so that they can get started right away and show them how easy it is to use the services. So I think that maybe at that moment the family member pays more attention to some of those resources in the packet, but they go home with it and they have our phone number and the number of the occupational therapist, and they can call and ask questions. And we encourage that. But again, oftentimes we're getting the initial phone call from a family member.
Right. Trying to find services. Yeah. And just in terms of communication, that always seems to be so key. And there can be a lot of frustration around vision loss, both the person experiencing it and trying to learn new techniques and dealing with the fact that they're not able to see as well as they did or able to do things the way they used to. And sometimes that the family members too of just maybe being confused. Or I remember one time talking to a person who had macular, and so his central vision was going, but he had peripheral vision. And his daughter couldn't understand why he could point something out on the floor that was in his periphery, but then he would tell her, well, he couldn't see something that was in front. And so just, as you said, if they're in those meetings to really understand the condition and what the person is experiencing, but also just being able to have open communications about fears and things. And do you have suggestions on how friends or loved ones can communicate effectively, or it might feel awkward, but maybe you need to ask a question of, oh, can I help you? Or, what are you seeing or not seeing?
I don't know if this answers your question, but this is what came to my mind, is that a lot of times the patient, the person who's losing vision, is afraid to communicate what's going on with them because they're afraid of the result. They're afraid that somebody's going to be afraid to leave them home, that they'll burn the house down or they'll fall down the stairs, all of which could happen to any of us. And so they're afraid to say, well, I tripped or I had a fall, or because now I'm going to end up in a nursing home and I don't want that to happen. And the truth is, for a lot of people, when they don't get services or they don't adapt well, they end up isolated and depressed that brings on secondary diseases. It happens a lot. The statistics are staggering. It's something like $3 billion a year just in the state of Colorado for people who have vision loss that end up in the hospitals. And it's because they're not doing the things they need to do. They're afraid to say, could you help me sort my pills? Could you help me mark my pills? Could you help me with these things? And they're afraid because the end result is terrifying to them. And it shouldn't be that way. They should know that, and maybe this is the part that you were asking about. The family members should say, just tell me and let's talk it through. Let's see if you need to get some more help and take some of that fear out of it, by supporting them, by, again, coming to the appointment, by listening to the education portion, and continuing to do those things. They may not want to, participate in everything. I remember when I was first diagnosed, and people are like, just call me. If you need a ride somewhere, just call me. And then you call them, right? And they're like, oh, well, I can't do it that day. And immediately you shut down. But you can't.
Right.
Because that's not realistic. You have to give people credit for wanting to help you and know that they really mean it. They're just not available 24/7 for you to do things. And so,
yeah, it doesn't mean you can't ask again.
Exactly. But you have to have other strategies. So if Kim Ann can't take me, well, is there another friend I can call? Or what about, the transit system? We all have an Access-a-Ride or something like that available. Make sure they're signed up for those. It's inconvenient, but it's a way to get there. Call, an Uber or a taxi. Those things are available, and that they can be in your time frame. And so the biggest part is to help people find the resources, and so that they're comfortable with their own vision loss and knowing that they can do these things without just relying on somebody else all the time. It's okay to rely on people. We all do it. But
we do.
Yeah, we do. We don't do everything out there. I don't make my own food, and, I cook, but you know what I mean? I'm not raising cows and corn.
Yeah.
So we do rely on other people for things. But I think that when it comes to our friends and family, them letting us know that it's okay. It's not my idea to just throw you in a nursing home and leave you there to, until the end, which is what people think when they go into a nursing home, which is really sad. But also, senior communities can really be a good place to live for a lot of people who live alone. Not necessarily nursing home, but independent living, because there are a lot of people there who also have vision loss. In every one of those, there is no exclusion to that. And a lot of them have support groups right there.
Right. And it's convenient. And I think that is something that people need to consider for themselves or with their family. Of sometimes if you can stay in the home that you've been in for decades, that's helpful because you know it. Exactly. And you know where things are. And if that's possible, but sometimes a person may feel like there would be a benefit to be, like you said, still independent living, but in a community where some of those things are already built in.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. So lots of things to consider. So we've talked about kind of first steps, getting involved. Don't wait. Take some action, even if you're not ready to actually start using devices or needing rehab. But if you find out about it, that can just give you some hope and help you as you experience changes. Things for families. Are there other final thoughts or messages that you'd like to share, suggestions for folks today?
I would just like to say, and Insight has a number of satellite offices around the Front Range in the Denver area. We go to Grand Junction. We travel around. But we have two main offices in Fort Collins and in Greeley. And people are welcome to stop in and just, see the kinds of tools that are available, maybe talk to the admin at the front desk about, what's going on with them, and let them tell them about programs that are available, give them resources. They don't have to make an appointment, but, if they could actually manage to come in or go to the website and kind of check out what the services are, what's available, talk about payment if they need to, those kinds of things. Because we've never how many years has it been? Well, 2001. We opened July of 2001. Wow, we're coming up on an anniversary here. We've never turned anybody away. So that shouldn't be the issue, whether or not they can afford the services or the tools. The issue should be that they need to be safe and independent and feel like there's hope for the rest of their life.
Mm-hmm. And if there are family members or friends involved, that they can feel the same, that their friend or loved one is going to be safe and is going to be able to continue to have a good quality life moving forward, it's not just doom and gloom. There's still a lot of activities and things happening.
That's it. I realize in the beginning stages, it can be very depressing. Go through those stages of loss. Many people do, but there really is hope.
Denny, what's the best way if people are interested in getting in contact either with Insight or Curtis Strong Centers? What's the best way to contact you or find out more information?
Give us a call. Our number is 970-407-9999. And we have central answering. So if they call that number, we can schedule them for any of our locations around the state.
That's great. And there's also a website they can access as well, correct?
Correct. It's www.insightskills.org. And Insight is spelled ENSIGHT, skills.org. And our phone number, our contact information is on there. And probably anything they'd want to know about us is there. So either of those ways.
Great. Well, Denny, thank you so much for sharing your insights and your years of experience with us. I'm sure people have found it helpful.
I hope so. Kim Ann, it was great talking with you.
You too. Hopefully we can see each other in person sometime. I feel like we only see each other virtually these days.
I know. That would be nice. That would be great.
Yeah. And thank all of you for listening. We hope that you will join us next month, July. We're in the midst of summer, and we're going to be talking about activities and things. As we said, life goes on. Activities and things that you can be doing in your summer that are accessible or adaptive. And one thing, if you are either a hiker or are interested in trying a hike, you can come and join us at Aftersight. Our audio trekker hike is in July 27th, and it will be at Myers Gulch. And you can get more information and register for that on our website, which is Aftersight, AFTERSIGHT.org and /hike if you're specifically looking for hike information. Otherwise, you're welcome to explore our website and the resources that we have there. So join us next week as we start our month of July and activities. We hope all of the information we're providing you helps you navigate your life with vision loss.